So as we told you earlier this hour, the backlash in Washington has been swift and strong after President Trump announced his decision to withdraw some U.S. troops from northern Syria. CBS News White House correspondent Weijia Jiang reports on that.
We have to bring our people back home.
During a briefing with military leaders last night, President Trump defended his decision to withdraw American troops from northern Syria.
We were down to very few soldiers in Syria. We had 50 in the region that you're talking about, 50 soldiers, and they've been already moved out.
These images capture the U.S. troops deserting observation posts and abandoning the U.S.-backed Kurdish forces that have shouldered much of the fight against ISIS.
Too many times America in the past has left our allies behind.
Some of the president's staunchest Republican allies in Congress wasted no time condemning his decision. Pat Toomey called it a threat to our national security. Liz Cheney described it as a catastrophic mistake. And Lindsey Graham said it's a shot in the arm to the bad guys, devastating for the good guys. Even Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said the move would increase the risk that ISIS and other terrorist groups regroup.
I respect both opinions. The problem with the other opinion is, when do we leave? When do we leave? We're going to stay there forever?
The fear of a resurgence by ISIS stems partly from the possibility that an attack by Turkey could jeopardize the security of prisons controlled by the Kurds that hold roughly 10,000 ISIS prisoners, about 2,500 of whom are highly dangerous foreign fighters. The White House statement Sunday said Turkey would take custody of foreign fighters. After first saying Turkey will soon be moving forward with its long-planned operation in northern Syria, President Trump changed his tune, tweeting, "If Turkey does anything that I, in my great and unmatched wisdom, consider to be off limits, I will totally obliterate the economy of Turkey."
So national security and foreign policy expert Asha Castleberry is joining me now. She is an Army veteran who previously worked for the State Department, a U.S. mission to the UN. Thank you so much for joining us. Because, you know, since this announcement has been made, we certainly heard criticism from both Republicans and Democrats. The president, you know, pushing back, saying, hey, it's just 50 men or 50 men and women that we're removing. It's not that big of a deal. But at some point, you have to draw the line. And it was also, you know, a campaign pledge. So Turkey has said today that it has completed preparations for a military operation in Syria. What does a Turkish military operation look like? What are they talking about?
Well, with regards to the Turks, their strategic interest is to initiate an offensive in northern Syria, trying to take up key areas, and that will require moving over the Kurds or the YPG just to make sure, you know, that they are able to take over those areas, move them over, and possibly target them, which is, you know, conflicting when it comes to our strategic interests, because we have been working with the Kurds or Syrian Democratic Forces as far as countering ISIS. So it's going to definitely destabilize the overall area, but they have been navigating that area in terms of trying to unilaterally secure their interests. But prior to that, surprisingly, we have been working with the Turks as far as easing tensions between them and the Syrian Democratic Forces by doing joint patrols, as well as being able to secure some sort of bilateral security agreement, making sure that they do not target the Syrian Democratic Forces. But unfortunately, this hasty decision has reversed that.
Are we leaving the Kurds, our allies, to be slaughtered?
There's a possibility, yes, due to the fact that we're making it more vulnerable by pulling out.
Right.
By us being there, we were able to establish a deterrence, meaning that, hey, Turkey, do not come in, you know, and target our partners that we need to fight ISIS. But pulling out definitely makes them a lot more vulnerable. Now, the
president says we'll hit them in the economy if Turkey does anything.
Right. So there has been, you know, some remarks saying that we'll hit them, et cetera, et cetera. But the Turks have been really determined for quite some time targeting this one group, and I just think they're going to disregard those comments.
And then, of course, the other concern is ISIS. The president has said that ISIS is defeated. Many people within the defense community disagree with that. What are the implications for ISIS?
They will definitely take advantage of the environment. You just saw just reports as far as the detention camps where prior to this decision, the Syrian Democratic Forces already having some trouble holding on to them into these detention camps. Now with this Turkish offensive, it's going to make it a lot worse, where it's going to be harder to make sure that they are detained in these detention camps and possibly escape out and be able to reconstitute their efforts in a more destabilizing environment.
Because if the Kurds suddenly find themselves in some sort of conflict with Turkey, then their resources are going to go towards that conflict.
Right, and then you might see a possibility where they'll tilt towards the pro-regime forces, Iran, Russia, for security protection.
And so then the other thing that we're hearing from lawmakers, the other concern is how this looks to our other allies. That, you know, we entered into this agreement with the Kurds, and by all accounts, they have been fearsome fighters, losing many, many men, and now we're pulling out, and other allies are watching this.
We look unreliable, and then it's just also a little bit, it's definitely a lot off in terms of we're actually leading the coalition of 80 nations against ISIS. So when you see that the leader of this coalition is actually pulling out, and that wasn't necessarily agreed upon, and you know, even internally wasn't necessarily talked about among the military advisors. We look like very, very unreliable to the world, and then, you know, it's also looks very upsetting due to the fact that we have invested so many years with the Kurds as far as making sure we're going against ISIS, also Al-Qaeda, also the Ba'athist Party under Saddam Hussein. So it doesn't necessarily look too good in terms of American power and being a reliable force working with our partners around the world.
Who benefits? Does Iran and Russia benefit from this?
Absolutely. Why not? You know, when the more the United States reduce its presence in Syria, of course they do. They want us out there. You know, Bashar al-Assad at the end of the day wants to regain the entire Syria. Why not push the United States out? And if we have a commander-in-chief who is willing to withdraw from the area, that is in their strategic interest, you know?
It is concerning. Asha Castleberry, thank you very much.